All right, Miles, let's talk about the Green Bay Packers here for a little bit. Look, all eyes are on Jordan Love, new franchise quarterback, and rightly so. But Love isn't the only new change here going on in the Green Bay Packers. They made a lot of other big moves. Some of them made the headlines, some of them didn't. And we're going to focus on this one here because I think the Green Bay Packers have a new addition that I think is going to be a steal for them. And I think people are going to be really going to want to pay attention to this kid, Miles. I think he has a chance to be a special playmaker for this team.
Yeah, Nick, I think this guy truly flew under the radar. That's how the Packers were able to snag him at such a favorable position last year. I think that this is truly going to surprise a lot of Packers fans because this guy could be a really big addition, as you said. But Green Bay Packers fans, we're talking about this team, talking about how they've been in the past, and they're very good right now. But they've gone through a lot of change in the past. They moved from Mike McCarthy over to LaFleur, really going through that transitional period. But LaFleur, how they find him? He was a really talented assistant coach, made the jump over to the Packers. And that's why I want to ask in the comment section below, Nick, Packers fans, who is your favorite Packers assistant coach of all time? I'm really curious. There's a lot of great answers out there. So let us know in the comment section below, who is your favorite Packers assistant coach of all time? But Nick, now let's get on into it. Who is this mystery player that we are talking about?
Yeah, Miles, before I throw up the report, for me, it's going to be the late, great Kevin Green, outside linebacker coach. Green Bay Packers was the guy coaching Clay Matthews on the Super Bowl run years ago. Really liked him as a player, phenomenal coach. I think he would be the number one guy on my list. But anyway, from the report, which is from the fan sided, let's get right into it. All right, the Green Bay Packers have a long-standing tradition of undrafted rookies making their way onto the 53-man roster. The next player potentially in line could be edge rusher Brenton Cox, which could either lead to a crowded edge rusher room or a difficult decision. Cox is a former five-star high school recruit that very well could have been an early round draft pick had he not been dismissed both from Georgia and Florida during his college career. During the 2020 and 2021 seasons with Florida, Cox logged 74 pressures and 10 sacks. He was also one of PFF's, Pro Football Focus, highest graded edge rushers versus the run during that span as well. Throughout OTAs and minicamp, Cox was routinely with the 13 defense, which shouldn't come as a surprise given that ahead of him on the depth chart is Preston Smith, JJ Enagbare, Justin Hollins, and of course Lucas Van Ness, the other young player. But following one practice, when Matt LaFleur was asked which young players on either side of the ball had stood out to him, Cox was one of the few names he mentioned. All right, Mice, I think this is one of those moves I think could be a huge potential, just massive dividend creator for the Green Bay Packers. This was a guy that has all the physical talent, five-star recruit, plays in the SEC, was productive in the SEC, was one of the better defensive players in 2020 and 2021 in the SEC. He's big, strong. His 40 is not great at 4.8, but he's quick, 1.6, 10-yard split, 33-inch vertical jump. He's a great athlete in every way you want it in terms of edge rusher, explosive playmaker, guy off the edge, can make a lot of plays, plays well in the run, can rush the passer, productive. I love guys who are productive in college. But again, the issue is he's been dismissed twice. So you have potential character concerns, right? Some issues like that. Well, the Packers did their research. This is also according to that same fan-sided report that the Packers pass rush coordinator, Jason Rabrovich, reached out to him directly to make sure, hey, what's his headspace like? Has he moved on from the issues? The Packers believe he has. That's why they brought him in as an undrafted free agent. He's already making waves, Mice. I think this is a guy, I think he'll make the team, and I don't think he'll just be a backup player. I think he'll be an impact player for the Packers come 2023. What do you think of Cox here with the Packers, Mice? Do you think he has a chance to be a really nice playmaker here for the Green Bay defense?
Yeah, Nick, I think this guy is going to be very talented. I think they got him at a steal of a draft position here. I think this guy could be extremely, extremely talented, but it reminds me of another former teammate of his, Jalen Carter from Georgia as well. This guy came in, he had a lot of character concerns, allowed him to fall in the draft a little bit, but he got selected in the first round. I think this guy was at a similar pedigree even though he had even more off the field issues. But as you said, the Packers did their research and they have in everything in their head says this guy's on the right path, worth the pickup for him. And he's an undrafted free agent, Nick. There's no risk here, but there's a ton of upside. So that's why I love this pickup. This guy seems the highest upside, lowest risk player that you could possibly get. It's a guy that comes in and could be, an elite level pass rusher for years to come for you, or you just move on from him. No love lost there because he's an undrafted free agent. You don't spend a ton of capital on a guy like that. So I think the Green Bay Packers have pulled off a brilliant move here. And I think it's looking really smart because they could save a lot of money on this guy going in towards the future because there's a lot of undecided things. The quarterback position, they're going to have to address that soon, whether they want to get a new guy in the draft, whether they want to bring in a free agent, or whether they want to stick with Jordan Love and address that as well. So I think they leave themselves in a really, really smart position here with this guy. But I think Cox has the potential to be something very special.
Well, especially when you looked at how good he was in college when he did play, right? He was just a dominant player. He was going to be a first round pick, most likely, maybe a guy who falls into the second round. He has pretty much every physical tool. He's 6'4, 250. I mentioned a lot of his other athletic traits earlier. He's productive. And I mentioned that a bunch, but that's one of the things that's missed a lot when it comes to these undrafted free agent late round prospects. You always hear, oh, they've got talent, but they have character issues. You rarely have a guy who has a lot of physical talent, was productive in college, and then has character issues. I always love the guys that are productive because that means they usually can have a way to figure it out and overcome it. This is a guy that has had his issues, had them at Georgia, had them at Florida. Look, I'm hoping this was a college kid mistake. He made a few mistakes. He was a young guy. He was immature, did some things wrong. He now recognizes that. I hope he went from a first round prospect to undrafted free agent. Hopefully it's clicking. It sounds like it is. But like you said, Mize, this is the very extreme definition of asymmetric risk reward. The Packers literally have no downside because he's undrafted free agent. They spent like 20 grand on a signing bonus for him, no risk at all. And the upside is he's a first round talent. I love that from the Green Bay Packers. I love what Cox is doing here. I really hope his career turns around, or gets going, I should say, for the Packers. I'm rooting for this guy, and I think he's going to be a big time playmaker for this football team.